just wanted to kick off this session by talking a little bit about why we are calling this event a launch event. So as many of you may know, NGO CSW's Young Professionals Program has been around for a while, and we decided to rename and in some ways reinvent ourselves as the youth leaders and young professionals, or YLYPs for short. And what better year for change than 2020, right? So the thinking behind this rebranding with our new name and logo was really the need to ensure that our name as a program reflects the intersectional work we want to do. We felt that young professionals alone seem to focus a lot on young people who were working solely in the development space, but who maybe didn't have that much experience and by default didn't have that much of a voice. But by reframing our name as the youth leaders and young professionals, we are aiming to reframe young people as leaders with a voice, with representation, with real power in these spaces. And we want to ensure that our work and our engagement as a program and as an organization is not only focused on those working within the development space, but for those who are working in different sectors. We want to break down silos and advance our work together in an intersectional way and work across those silos for gender equity together. So at this moment in time, where we are all connecting virtually, of course, and as we are working our way towards our first ever virtual CSW, and with the 25th anniversary of Beijing, the 10-year anniversary of UN Women, it's really been a time for us as a program and a network to reflect and be more intentional to ensure that our work is inclusive, it's intersectional, it's intergenerational, and one that really puts young people front and center as leaders with power and incredible value. And because as young people, you know, we're not the future, we are not on some distant horizon, we are the present, we are the now, and we will work with our fellow advocates across generations, across sectors, across the world to continue advancing the seemingly never-ending work of achieving gender equity. And to talk a little bit more about our work as the YLYPs and our programs, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Safira.
Thank you so much, Saida. So some of you may have already started to participate in the events under the Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program. So we've had a couple of mentors. Perfect, thank you. And really, we're wanting to make our spaces as helpful to young people as possible, recognizing, as Saida, many to the activities in 2021 and how so much of what we're doing is online. So we've opened up a few mentoring spaces, and we're really trying to refine and see how we can really adapt to the needs of young people and provide spaces where more intimate conversations can be had, where advice can be shared across generations and amongst us with our peers. So the mentorship space is something to keep an eye on, and we'll be kind of refining that and hopefully ramping that up as we go throughout 2021 to create spaces that will mentor young people into things like the Commission on the Status of Women and the Gender Equality Forum. So that's one thing, the mentorship program. The second is that we are creating a small planning group for anybody who wants to join that is preparing youth engagement in the Commission on the Status of Women, particularly the NGO Civil Society Forum, which will be happening online. And we'll hear more details about that. Huri and Ivy are going to be explaining ways in which young people can participate, different opportunities that we're going to have to integrate young people throughout the program, but to also have specific spaces for young people. But if you are interested in shaping that space or have ideas, that is a space where you can help us plan, and specifically for the CSW in March. And then we also have kind of regular meetings for the membership of our Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program every month or two on particular themes, which will allow us to really get up to speed with the conversation that is happening at the UN, explore different thematic, different themes from the Beijing Platform for Action, for example, or some of these like high-level political forums, and the theme of CSW, so that we are all getting a good sense of the conversation and fluent with the advocacy language. So these are certain spaces that we are already starting to create, but we're also very conscious that there might be other needs. There might be professional development needs or capacity development needs or networking needs that you might be feeling. So if there are ideas or specific things that you would like to see out of the program, we definitely want to hear from you. And we will have some time at the end of this meeting where we do want to hear kind of what would be helpful to you and what the YLYPs can provide. So now I'll hand over to Devin to speak a little bit more about some of these UN spaces.
Thank you, Safira and Saida. Yeah, so just going off of that, one of the things that we really want to think about and talk about today is how we're going to be prepared and how we're going to engage in all the events that are going on in 2021. So specifically the Generation Equality Forums, NGO CSW65 Forum, which is virtual this year, and the Commission on the Status of Women at the UN. So the first hour, we're going to be hearing from some speakers representing those different spaces. So we have speakers from NGO CSW, UN Women, and the Youth Task Force for Generation Equality Forums. In hopes to give you a good foundation of what's happening in those spaces and specifically how youth is engaging in those spaces. Yeah, so that's my little spiel.
Shall we move to the poll?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we have some just, introductory poll to get a feel of who's on the call. It should pop up on your screen. Can people just give like a thumbs up if they see it? Okay, cool. So these first three questions, we're going to have another poll later in the event also, but these first three questions are just, basic introductory. What region are you based in? What's your age group? And what's the best way for us to communicate with you? There's a lot of different methods of communication. So we're just kind of trying to get a feel of how our community wants to communicate and what the best way is for them. Okay, so for some reason, it says no one voted anything. Maybe I should just try it again. Okay. Technical difficulties. Okay, relaunch. Okay, did it pop up again? Okay. All right. It is still not showing up as anyone voting. Weird.
I am seeing it on my screen.
Yeah, you are?
Yes.
Oh, maybe that's why. Okay. So you're seeing it as the co-host. Okay, then that's fine. I think I just can't share it because mine's 0, and that's not very helpful information.
Can I help you share it? I say end poll. Will you get it?
Yes. Yeah. Maybe you just you do it then.
Share results. Oh my God, I feel so important right now. Hi everyone, I'm Hootie. I'll go back into my quiet space in a minute.
Okay.
Can everybody see it now?
All right.
Yes.
I cannot. So maybe Hootie, if you can just like close it out.
Yes. Oh my.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Now this is, yeah.
All right, cool. So at least we know it was successful. I just couldn't see it. That's fine.
Yeah, I saw it come up.
Okay.
And I vote.
All right.
And I vote.
So then I guess we will move on to our speakers for today.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you for that poll. It actually is really nice to get a sense of who's on the call. So we are going to hear from UN Women, our Gender Equality Task Force, Gender Equality Forum Task Force, and NGO CSW. But we're going to start with hearing from Huri and Ivy. So Huri is the chair of NGO CSW and Ivy is the vice chair. So they're going to be explaining kind of a little bit more about NGO CSW, how you can get involved, and what's coming up for the Commission on the Status of Women. So over to you, Huri.
Hi, everyone. I guess you all heard me already. I am the chair of NGO CSW. Ivy, there's Ivy, and there's my...
Hi. I wish we were sitting next to each other.
I know. So we'll be serious. Okay. So I am so excited. First of all, I want to start by thanking Safira, Saida, and Devin. You three make my dreams come true. I mean, we have been talking and working with this young professional group for years. Ivy and I think we're one of the originals who started this conversation, but not in my wildest dreams I could imagine co-chairs like Safira, Saida, and Devin who are taking it to the next level. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And I thought for some reason I was going to speak later, but I'll jump right in and say that I'm excited for what we're bringing for CSW65. You will all, I'm sure you have received our emails, our previews of what to expect on this virtual platform. And we're doing the best we can to create a very inclusive, collaborative, intersectional platform that people can access for even personal growth or sharing of their best practices, ideas, learning, teaching, you know, everything that happens when women and girls and human rights advocates come together. Now, you will hear even in my welcome message, which will be launched next week when the platform is launched, I am specifically highlighting youth voices because I think everything that happened 25 years ago was so important. It moved our feminist movement so far in Beijing, and some of you might know about it. And if you don't, just Google Beijing Platform for Action. It's really the document, the religious book that we have that we really refer to and advocate with. And CSW, the Commission on the Status of Women that meets every March, actually is based on those agreements that happened 25 years ago. So much shifted then, and we did so well, yet here we are in a world where I'm sure nobody will disagree that we are not where we need to be. So the way I look at our platform, the way I want you, what I want you to hear from me is that you have every opportunity to have ownership of this platform in any way you want. Now, I'm always cautious when I say that because obviously there's certain limitations no matter what we do, right? But I would like everybody to feel like they have a say, a voice in how we advocate going forward. What I'm expecting with this platform is we shift the way we advocate. Yes, it is only 100% civil society platform. Yes, we would like to engage with UN missions, ambassadors, And UN Women obviously is a partner of ours, but this platform specifically is 100% civil society driven. So imagine we all gathering under one tent and bringing our voices together to make leaders hear what it is that we want from them. Now, how do we do that? It's really up to all of us. And I know Safira already mentioned a couple of opportunities. If you join the YLYP meetings, they are already coming up with such creative ways of engaging and also inspiring you all to shift the narrative, to really figure out a way and tell us, how do you want us to advocate? How do you want your voices to be heard? We are here to provide the platform for you. And of course, we have our own ideas. We're going to have all kinds of events that we are organizing as well. But I want you all to feel the ownership and say, can I be the next Greta, or can I be the next Malala, or can I be the next Safira and Saida and Devon, and be sitting in a seat where I can really gather people to make a difference in this world. I'm going to stop for a second and see if Ivy wants to add some more specific things that we're doing with parallel events and conversation circles, because I don't want to take up too much time to talk. I really would love to engage and have a conversation more than us lecturing you. And I hope my message came across clear to you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Huri. And so I'm going to just back up a little bit, just to, since we're not sure exactly how many of you know about the NGO Forum and what CSW is about. So I'm not going to go into great detail, but just so that to put it into context, what Huri's talking about when she says the virtual space, this virtual NGO Forum. Yes, it's historic for us. It's the first time we've gone 100% virtual. In the past, so the Commission on the Status of Women meets every year, and they have been meeting in New York in March recently. And this time it's gonna run for, and it's usually 2 weeks, and it'll be from the 13th through the 26th is when the commission runs. And then as negotiations are taking place by governments at CSW, we hold the NGO Forum, and the NGO CSW New York has been spearheading that effort and planning it. And usually that gathers like almost 10,000 people from all over the world to New York City, specifically for this CSW. And now we're trying to do that all virtually. We're trying to create the same kind of like community feeling and activist engagement as much as possible. But within that forum, there's going to be a lot of different ways for people to engage. And so there is a really broad participation. I wouldn't say that everybody is engaged in the UN. There's actually quite a few people who have very little experience in the UN space and want to become more active and learn about women and girls issues. And so the NGO Forum is like a very diverse group of people. And we're so excited because it's going to be global this time. And we're hoping even more people can participate. Of course, there's always going to be the accessibility issues with connectivity and whatnot. But as much as possible, we're trying to, broaden the net. And within the NGO Forum, there is the parallel events is a big highlight for people. So the parallel events are when NGOs, organizations collaborate together and put on events. They do their own events. It's going to be like a Zoom style kind of event, 90 minutes to 100. So it's 2 hours or an hour and a half long. And then that organization takes full control of how they want to run it. We in the past have had 450 events that run for 2 weeks. This time it'll be like kind of unlimited, and it's going to run 24 hours. And then we're going to have these conversation circle spaces, and the conversation circles will run the first week. And those are spaces divided thematically, and people will have like more like small discussion group spaces to talk. So it'll be like Zoom, but we're going to break up into small groups so that people can talk about a topic. This is actually, I'm putting a plug in right now because we need help to pick the topics that is going to be of interest. And especially for young people, if you have any topics, you could even put it in the chat right now, what you can think of as good themes for us to discuss in those small groups. And also we will have like, space where, what do you call, the artisan fair is happening. And then there are caucuses happening, and those are divided by regions. We have a new caucus that is the people of, I don't know what the new name is, but African descent, anti-racist group. I don't know what it is.
Yes,
now.
It's all about anti-racism, but it's
Okay.
women and girls of African descent.
So they're going to also have a caucus, and we will have advocacy trainings. So if you want to learn more about how to advocate within the UN, then this is the place. They're going to have a series of trainings. There's going to be orientation for people about everything you want to know, CSW. And I think that's about it. And of course, the platform itself is going to allow people to network and engage. So there's going to be like, I can't call them chat, but like open public forums, so you can message each other and things like that. And there'll be sponsors. There's going to be an exhibit space. So this is kind of like the general gist of the virtual forum. And I'm going to stop here for questions and anything else, because I know Huri, like we both want to hear from you guys about how you see this space, how we could use this space. Yeah, any great ideas, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much, Huri and Ivy. So we'll first hear from all of our speakers, and then there'll be some time to hear from our young people and give your ideas and feedback. I see that there are some questions already coming in through the chat, so continue to post there. But I'd like to turn over now to Rita, who has been a longtime friend of NGO CSW and particularly the Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program, and has always been supportive of young people's engagement, particularly in the Commission on the Status of Women. So I'll hand over to Rita, who will be explaining on behalf of UN Women some opportunities for young people's engagement, particularly upcoming in 2021. So over to you, Rita.
Thank you so much, Safira. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. And believe it or not, Safira was one of the first young women in the youth task force that we had. And so it's been a long, long time. So thank you so much. I'm happy to see Huri. I'm happy to see Ivy as well. And Ivy, we're connecting in other spaces, which is really, really nice. So before I start, I just want to hear, Safira, how long do I have? Sorry, I should have asked.
Between 5 to 10 minutes, Rita.
Okay, yeah, so that's not long. But however, I would really love to see where every one of you is located. So if you got your name and you hover there, you can change and include your country where you're calling from. If you can quickly do that, I think that would really be lovely. I just wanted to see where we're all coming from at the moment. I cannot see anyone. Wait, okay, USA, Tanzania, thank you. France, lovely. USA, North Carolina, London. Oh my goodness, okay, Jamaica. This is quite global. This is quite global, lovely. And then I also want to know who of you have heard about generation equality? Whether it's your first time hearing about generation equality or you have heard about it before. So if you got your reaction, if you go to the bottom, there's a reaction button there. So just show by the thumbs up whether, yes, brilliant. I'm not seeing many people. Brilliant, yes. Okay, all right. So I don't even need to go there. So yeah, so in terms of generation equality, you've all heard about it, most of you, which is quite exciting. And knowing that it's youth-centered, I mean, that is the narrative we want to bring. What we've also managed to do, and with the advocacy of the Youth Task Force, I think you know about the Youth Task Force, they've been able to advocate for youth spaces in so many structures of Generation Equality Forum, the processes themselves and the outcome of the Generation Equality. So for us, at the end of it, what we want to see is your leadership. And having platforms like this is something that we're really looking forward to. And we want to connect with you in a more meaningful way. We've got the Generation Equality Youth Task Force. They're also going to talk to you. And what we really want to see is that connection and you sharing ideas, showing us how you want to engage with generation equality. Without your voice, it will be a fail. And so we want to walk the talk as UN Women and ensure that your voice is heard in so many of those structures. We've got what are called curated conversations. These are conversations where they are trying, you know, those conversations are trying to shape the program of the Generation Equality Forum. So your engagement there is extremely critical. So for any of you who are interested in curated conversations, you can reach out to me. I'm sure Safira will send out my details if you need them. The second part is around the public conversations. Public conversations are those which are going to be public. Curated are sort of, you know, the sponsor group, which is made of Mexico, UN Women, France, Civil Society Advisory Group, and the Youth Task Force. They compose the sponsor group who choose who goes into the curated conversations. Whereas the public conversations, they are more public. There's going to be a public platform where you can engage. And for those who are also interested, when it gets launched sometime in January, would really love you to be part of that. We also have got the outcomes of the Generation Equality Forum, which are the action coalitions. So on each of the action coalitions, there are 6 of them. On each of them, there is going to be youth-led leadership, 2 to 3 youth-led organizations with a particular focus on adolescents. So you are young professionals, and I know that you've got your own spaces, you've got your own platforms, you've got your own networks. UN Women has not really worked very closely with adolescents, but we are saying in each action coalition, there's going to be an action that is dedicated to girls and young people. So how can we make sure that the space is safe enough, the space is inviting enough for girls to participate? We also want your ideas. You are advocates, you are empowered, you've got access to these platforms. There are those who do not have access to these platforms. There are those who've got brilliant ideas, doing amazing work on the ground. How do we also bring those ideas to the fore? So that is something that would really like you to play a role in. And we are here to link with you, to support with you. But in terms of girls, please, please, we really would love you to give us ideas on how we can link with girl-led organizations, not girl-saving organizations, but we want the girls themselves. We want them to be in the driving seat. We want them to shape those actions that are going to be on the action coalitions, because they're going to span for 5 years. And if they're not there, honestly, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. So it's just a call to you to say, we really would love to engage with you. This is a brilliant platform. It's global. I'm quite excited to be here. And please reach out in any way and come along with us. We've got a youth journey. It's going to be launched next week. I mean, we're quite excited about it. We're going to send everything to Safira as well, and she can share with you the youth journey. And please, let's journey together in ensuring that the business of gender inequality is finished before 2030. Thank you, Safira.
Thank you so much, Rita. This was all really helpful to hear. And so nice to hear these questions that you're posing, and hopefully our young people on the call today will be able to give some thought and some ideas to those questions. So I'll turn to our last speaker. I'd like to introduce Rasha Hafar. She's going to be speaking about the Gender Equality Forum, and she's part of that youth task force. And also she's a co-founder and CEO of her own organization, which is the Youth Against Slavery Movement. So grateful that she's able to join us, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts about how young people can engage with the Gender Equality Forum.
Thank you so much. I'm actually here also with my colleague Annika, who's also a member of the Youth Task Force. So I'm actually going to let Annika speak first. She's going to give a little introduction about our Youth Task Force and the beginning of our journey. And then I'll take over to talk about the other structures. Thank you. Over to you, Annika.
You're muted.
Annika, we can't hear you.
Perhaps log off and rejoin. Sometimes that helps because she's unmuted and we still can't hear her.
The problem might be her earpiece.
We are not hearing.
Yeah, I think she's going to log off and try again. But maybe Rasha, you can start, and then Annika can come in with the story.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for having us here today. I'm super excited to be among all these amazing youth. It's just so beautiful to see everyone in one spot. Hi to you, Huri, and hi to you, Rita. It's so nice to see you. So my name is Rasha Hafar. I am Tunisian. I'm an anti-human trafficking and contemporary forms of slavery activist. I started my journey as an gender equality activist, and then one day I realized I almost got trafficked into sexual exploitation when I got a partial scholarship to go study in England, and I was looking for a job, and my only option was to work as a babysitter. But thank God I realized that the people I was talking to were actually fake profiles who were trying to traffic me. So since that moment, I realized that so many girls are being trafficked around the world. And I did so much research, and I understood that it's a very big prevalent crime. However, it's very underrepresented. So that's when I started to take the lead on doing so much grassroots work with youth in Tunisia, and I founded Not for Trade as the first local organization working on fighting human trafficking in Tunisia. I trained so many youth on what trafficking looks like and how can we prevent it. And from there, I realized after traveling a lot that youth are actually also missing from the anti-trafficking space globally. So that's when I wanted to do something bigger and just take the example of what I have been doing on a local scale and scale it to be something global. And that's why now I'm co-founding the Youth Against Slavery movement, which is going to be launching sometime in January. We are super excited about it. So stay tuned and connect with us and volunteer with us, because we want to reach more and more youth and more constituencies. My other hat is, of course, as a member of the Youth Task Force, and I'm also one of the 2 representatives of the Youth Task Force on the core group, which with the other member, who is Elvira, who is from Mexico. She's an indigenous women's rights activist. And it's been such an amazing journey to see how things have been unfolding in that space, where we have been collectively raising our voice to ensure that youth is at the center and forefront of all the processes of the generation equality. So getting the seat on the core group and becoming a decision-making body as a youth task force has been such a great win for us and for all the youth around the world. And we are super excited that we can finally do that. And that has given us so much access to so many other processes. So I just wanna look if Annika is back so that she can talk. If not, I can continue, and then Is she back?
I saw her come back in. I let her in, but I'm not sure where she is now. There she is.
Good.
Talk.
Annika, would you like to introduce yourself and share?
Oh, too bad.
Annika, we still can't hear you. Oh.
Yes, I see.
There you go. There you go. You should be. No? It's not working? Okay, I think her mic is not working.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that, Annika. Yeah, I can just continue to talk about the task force then. And then if you can connect, please jump in. It would be great to have your perspective. So yeah, I was saying that we managed to recently get a seat on the core group, and that has allowed us as a youth task force to be present in different decision-making bodies. So as you heard from Rita, there is six thematic action coalitions in addition to the Women, Peace and Security Compact. So after we got the seat on the core group, we managed to get 2 of our youth representatives from the task force to join each of these working groups on each of these action coalitions. So now we have 2 representatives on the action coalitions working group. We have 2 representatives on the curated discussions, and we have 1 representative on the Women, Peace and Security. We're actually trying to have 1 more seat. So that we can ensure that there's more diversity of voices represented. And we also, Rita, can you help me if I forgot one of the structures next to the curated discussions and the action coalition and the work group, the core group. So yeah, so now we have been, we actually have access to decision making. Before we were just, our role was mainly advisors to UN women through this process, but now we have transitioned into actually being a decision-making body, and our vote actually counts towards the final decisions of the whole process. It's been very, it's a little bit overwhelming to catch up with all of the discussions that we haven't been included in the beginning. Yeah, thank you so much. So there's also the multi-stakeholder committee. So what we are doing now is that we are working towards ensuring that the voice of youth is center in all of these processes. We are working, so for example, with the core group, we are working on the decision of the leadership of who comes on the action coalitions, from governments, from private sector, the multi-stakeholder committee as well. We're looking into diplomatic relations. We're also looking into the membership model for the action coalitions. I don't know if you know a little bit more about the action coalitions. I can dig deeper into that. But the structure is that there's going to be leaders, and then there's, after the leaders are finalized, which we are trying to finalize now after we got the youth leaders in place, we are going to open the door for members to join, and these members will serve to support and work with the leaders. And there's also going to be the supporters at the later stage, I think. So it's very important that we manage to consult and listen to youth on what are their concerns and what are their advice. And we are also making sure that we are centering adolescents and girls in this process. We've been working with AGIP, which is a coalition from different organizations working on centering adolescents in this process, and how do we safeguard them, how do we provide them with a space to actually be able to engage meaningfully while they are being supported and they're having enough or proper access and support. So I would love to actually open the floor for questions. It will be easier so that I can know how to tackle the different parts and pieces of this big puzzle of the generation equality. it would be good if you can give me any questions, any specific information you want to know about. That would be really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rasha. So yes, let's open for questions to all of our speakers. So you can ask about the NGO CSW Forum. You can ask about some of the spaces that UN Women has described and how to engage, particularly with young people and girls, and Rasha's questions about the the Generation Equality Forum. You're welcome to put those questions in the chat or raise your hand through the participants section, or even if you just want to turn on your video and raise your hand, I can call on you. But let's take a few questions and then we'll group them and turn back to our speakers to answer anything that we have. I know it was a lot of information to digest. And also just to note in the chat that Devin has been sharing some more websites, resources that you can kind of go into and explore and get more of a better sense of how to engage. So feel welcome on this call to ask kind of any questions about opportunities to engage or young people's participation in the coming weeks and months.
I actually would like to add that now we are approaching the CSW. So a part of our task force, we're actually working under different working groups. So we have a working group that's going to be preparing for the CSW, and we also are going to be preparing for both forums, Mexico, that is going to be launched in March, and then the Paris Forum in June, where the action coalitions are going to be launched officially to work for the next 5 years. So I just want to encourage you all to engage with us, because this is what we do. We are here to make sure that all the youth in their different constituencies are represented in this process, and that you can find your voice and you can tell us about your concerns and what are your priorities of work, so we can make sure that this space is inclusive to youth and is really engaging.
So I see some questions coming in through the chat. So there are questions around participation. Anything more that could be said about the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico and France and what is expected there, and maybe how young people can engage effectively? Yes, we'll be sending different opportunities. Make sure that you are on our mailing list. You can become a paid member of the Young Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program on the NGO CSW website. And that will definitely ensure that you are on that mailing list. We also have a Slack group for anyone who uses Slack and would like to use that as a way to kind of coordinate all of these different opportunities. Okay, we have more questions about the NGO Forum. Can we hear a little bit more about the application process, etc.? How do we make sure that we get all the information on what is going on? So yes, there are many different moving pieces here. So I don't know if our speakers today might have thoughts about how to kind of coordinate some of those opportunities. When will membership for action coalitions open up? Okay, lots of questions coming in through the chat. So maybe we'll pause there and we'll let our speakers kind of respond to some of these, and anything that you see in the chat that you would like to speak to, please fill up.
There are two hands that are up. Do you want to get those first?
Sure. Okay, yes. Sorry, I didn't see the hands.
Okay.
Let's go to Carlos, Melvin, and then Mina. We'll look at more questions in the chat and then we'll turn back to our speakers. So over to you, Carlos.
Hi, thank you so much. It's so amazing to be here again with all of you. It's always amazing to hear from amazing people with amazing jobs all around the world, to hear from amazing activists and young leaders, young professionals all around the world. So thank you so much for this opportunity in this space for us to express and to talk and to ask questions. So I wanted to know more about the, I know that you have been telling us that the young leaders in a professional program. It's something of social. I don't remember what to say it in English. I'm sorry. From citizens, like social society. So I wanted to know how can we actually be more active in the program? How can we reach those opportunities, and how can we step forward on these programs and on the different terms that we're using right now, like generation equality, race. Miss Raja was talking about human trafficking. So I wanted to know more about how this program will work, like exactly how it will work, and how can we be more active on this, how can we help, and how can we be an active member of this program, and how can we get in contact with other international organizations to help our work as an individual activist, and to our organization, and also to you and to the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Melvin, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Safira. My name is Melvin Obola from Kenya, and I work with an organization that centralizes on adolescent girls and young women's voices. So during the year, that is from May, we've been having Beijing Plus 25 discussions, just to making sure that adolescent girls and young women in their diversities understand what Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, even before the proposed Generation Equality Forums and CSW that is coming next year. And I just wanted to know, because we've had so many conversations, and the young women and girls have documented statements that we would like to deliver during the Generation Equality Forums and also CSW65. So I wanted to know, how can we work with you or engage together so that we make sure that the voices of young women and girls that we've already captured are documented in the final document that will be discussed for the regional and even global Generation Equality Forums. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'll hand over now to Mina.
Yes, this is Mina, and I'm talking on behalf of Iraq. I just want to, ask about very different circumstances. If this program face situations that women and adolescents refuse to get such a help, or such awareness about their equal right, about their their virtual part of the society, how would you manage these kind of difficulties? This situation, we face it here almost every day in Iraq, because we work on same programs to spread awareness and these kind of things. So I'm just need some opinions about, if you face such a situation, how could you deal with it? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll hand over now to Dio.
Yeah, I was very much interesting to Rita's presentation, and the one who first explained elaborated on her program Women UN, and the thing or the problem we are getting here in Africa, especially East Africa and Tanzania. We have youth organizations, and they are registered, and the problem is the capacity to access opportunities of funding to run youth gender equality program, which they initiate themselves, which they copy from the national strategies and world organization, whatever. they don't qualify to those international funding which are being announced. Where we are accessing the information that there is this funding from women UN, or this funding from Tanzania women or whatever. But the youth organization, most of them, they don't qualify because most of them are at the immature immature stage, and they are the youth, and most of them are not the youth are more mobile. They don't have that consistency to stay in one organization for a long, so that they can uh, make the organization matured or grow up to meet the qualification those are given to or announced from different places in the world. So how could this local organization access those funding so that they will be learning the gender equality programs to their local youth girls? That is my concern and question to you. Over to you, moderator.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's
Yeah,
pause here and turn back to our speakers.
thank you.
Anything that you have a whole range of questions to answer here.
Yeah.
You'd be able to share. So I'll first start with Huri and Ivy. Would you like to respond?
Let me jump in quickly because Ivy is so good at finishing my sentences and also what I miss. You know, maybe you can, Ivy, you can like look at all the different topics that came up. I've been chatting privately and publicly and trying to pay attention to all the questions. I am really, truly impressed with this group. Amazing information already coming out of all of you. Somebody had asked about the official CSW. We don't have information about that yet, but we are going to go forward with the civil society platform. And then maybe I'll go backwards. What Dio said about access, there's always an issue, right? Even when we were going to meet in person, you know, just access to flights and hotels, and financially, how do you get your voices heard in these spaces? So in that sense, we've been really grateful, if that's the right word to use, on what COVID exposed. First, COVID exposed the difference, the discrepancy between um, women and men, and also in different poverty areas where they were more susceptible to the disease, and also gave us opportunities to bring everything online, right? But I also know that there are issues even online. For example, one of the things we're working on with groups is really even providing a laptop and a tent in rural areas where they can't access our platforms without Wi-Fi and technology. So we really have to be very aware of who are we reaching and how are we reaching. So we're being cognizant of that. But the other thing that was really interesting, I think it was Mina who brought up the idea of how do you even help somebody who doesn't want help? And a lot of us are in cultures that can relate to that. There are women and girls that even if you reach them and you see them being abused, their reaction is like, my husband, my father, my brother is right. And, you know, you can't change my mind about who I am. And those, I think, are really the difficult issues that I personally have also dealt with. And groups like this is really what matters. Like how, you know, maybe somebody in Africa has found a way of reaching those women and girls who do not want to get help, and what has been successful for you, and then you can share with us, and then we can learn to bring it to our own cultures. I think cultural differences is something that we all deal with all the time, and we're going to have to address it even in our conversation circles, you know. And then let me see, there was one other question. Was it access again? I'll stop here. Ivy, do you have more answers to some of these questions? And I'll look at the chats again and see what I missed.
One thing I wanted to respond to Marissa about volunteers with no experience in the UN. And I think that once the platform opens up and you can look around at that, you can sign up. And I wanted to kind of explain really quickly about the sign up part too. To get on the platform, there's the option of donating, and you're going to see some, it says $25 or $50, and then pay it forward. And this is these are suggested and it's not required. So if any of you would like to be a part, to join the platform ahead of time, so you can already start to kind of see what the program's looking like and maybe see who's attending and all of that, you would have all that access before the CSW starts. Now, come 14th of March, it will be open to everyone for free. But before that, if you want access, we have these suggested prices, but we don't want that to be a limitation for your participation. You can always email us, and I'm gonna just give the generic NGO CSW email, but it's info@ngocsw.org, and that's where most questions can be directed, I believe. And so I think that's the first place to start, to kind of getting familiar with the platform, and then joining all the parallel events once they start happening in March. But if there's any other specific questions, you can always come to us.
Thank you, Huri and Ivy. I'll hand over to Rita.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. And this is quite amazing in terms of the questions that are coming up, and I've been responding to some of them directly. I'll touch on three things. I think there's one question which was asked to talk a little bit more about Mexico and France. All I can say about that is that Mexico is going to happen in March after CSW, so end of March, and France is going to happen in June. They've not announced the date yet. So what we've been trying to do and what we've been advocating for, it's going to be a hybrid model in terms of participation at the moment. So we don't really know, but we are anticipating it to be a hybrid model where we've got a small number of people at a location, but most of all, it will be virtual. So it being virtual, it means lots of participation. I think same thing as NGO CSW and what they're trying to do. So we've been saying we really would like to see 50% of participants being young people. So that means in the virtual and also in the physical. So in the physical, of course, we do not really know how it's going to pan out. If they say 200 people, we're trying to see if 100 could be young people. I don't know if we will manage, but that's what we'd like to do. In terms of it being virtual, there are going to be satellite sessions in different regions. We really would love you to attend those satellite sessions or to start following what is already happening. Our entry point is our regional offices because they've already started preparing and starting consultations on generation equality, but also on CSW. So if you look on our website, you should be able to see some of that information. So that is around Mexico and France. The second one is around how you can get connected to the action coalitions. So we've got youth leadership as action coalitions. What we're trying to do with the leadership, the youth leadership, is to say, you have been selected to be here, you become the mouthpiece of youth of the world. How then are you going to ensure that the voices of everyone else is heard on action coalitions? So that is a strategy that we're going to be working with them to ensure that they are able to link with all the other networks, and definitely this network is one of those, where we may even, if there is that possibility of inviting them to come to your meeting and also hearing exactly what you're talking about, because it goes back to the issue that was brought up by Dio in terms of access. A lot of that is around access, a lot of it is around capacity, a lot of it is around funding. We're also grappling with the Dio. We don't have a solution. We do not have a pot of money that we can give to all young people to do everything. So we're grappling with those issues, but that is why we have young people on all these processes, for young people to start bringing in that reality. Because I think if you look at private sector, if you look at governments, they need that reality check, and it's up to the young people to ensure that that reality check is there. They know your lived realities and what needs to be prioritized. Capacity building, definitely. Technology, definitely. Funding, I mean, we can't even start to think about that. So what I would advise for DO is for you to get in touch with the task force. There's a young man called Abel who's also in Tanzania. He has been doing amazing work. He can, he can talk to you and you can discuss how you can strategize together. And the last one is around volunteering. I think somebody mentioned something like volunteer without UN experience. There is the UN volunteer. I've put the website in the chat where you can register, and then there are lots of UN agencies who are looking for volunteers. After you've done your volunteering at any UN, you are given a certificate. That's another way of building your capacity without really going through the internship route. So I thought I could just throw that in. Thank you. Back to you, Safira.
Thank you so much, Rita. And I'll hand back to Rasha for any final comments or thoughts on these questions posed.
I think Rita covered it all. I was going to say that we are going to be working with the youth leaders on the action coalitions. We're going to work on their onboarding and also on thinking together, strategizing on how to best engage the youth and all these processes and with the work on the action coalitions. So just, stay tuned, connect with us. I shared my email. I shared the Youth Task Force email. You can also reach out to us on our social media. And yeah, there's so much work we can do together. Just join. I want to say it was such a pleasure to be here today, and I'm sorry I have to jump off. I have another meeting, but please reach out. We're open for, just collaborations. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you
And
so
thank you
much
for having me here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I wanted to say thank you so much to each of our speakers. You're very welcome to join us for the next hour, but also understand that you have to go. If you need to, you're welcome to leave. We're wanting to transition now to really getting some feedback and hearing from our young people what the Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program could do to support your work and to help you connect with all of these moving pieces. So Devin is going to put up another poll for us to get a sense of the ways in which we would like to engage and to explore some options of what we can do together to strengthen our work and to build on the energy and the momentum and the resources that each one of us brings to each of these spaces. So Devin can launch that poll, and then I'll hand over to Saida to facilitate this kind of feedback portion and consultation for the next hour.
All right, I launched. Can everyone see it? Okay. Hootie, I think you're gonna need to share the results again.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any voting, so I don't want to end until people start voting. Last time they were voting.
Yeah, that's what I see, that nobody's voting. Oh, someone said I can't submit.
Oh.
You have to scroll down and answer all the questions. They're
I
like
have an idea. Devin, I need to sign off anyway. Once I sign off, oh, there it is. Okay, I won't sign off until I share.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose the work. Ooh, look at that. So many people want to engage. Okay, should we end it?
I think let's give it a few more moments.
Okay. I'll follow your instructions. Wow.
I think if a lot of people have submitted the answer, maybe we can wrap up the poll. Are you getting that information, Huri or Devin?
Yes, 58% voted.
Okay.
Okay, I'll end poll and then share it. Share results. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it on my screen.
Fantastic.
Wonderful to have that information, and that information is also very useful for us when we are thinking about how best to frame and reframe and evolve our program. So thank you, Huri and Devin, for leading on that poll and working together with the technicalities of it all. Okay, so we're going to now ease into the next part of our session today, which we're essentially framing as a feedback session. So we used the first hour to hear all this great information about the CSW Forum, about the work we do at NGO CSW's Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program. And as we talked about earlier, we really want this process and our programming as NGO CSW and of course as the YLYPs to be member driven, to be led by our fellow advocates. So we want to use this time to essentially get your feedback about how we can make our programming better, how we can make our programming more engaging for you. And to that end, we have a few questions that I'm going to just post in the chat right here. While I format it so that it's more readable than it currently is. But what we want to know from you all is what can we as the YLYPs do that would support your work in the coming year and the lead up to CSW and beyond? And what would you like in the YLYP space for 2021? Like, what would you like to see us do that we perhaps aren't doing right now, or perhaps that we can do better in the coming years? And additionally, what can you do to contribute to the YLYP program? Again, we want this to be a member-driven and engaged space, so we want to continue hearing from you and engaging with you. And how can we reach young people, especially girls who do not have access to platforms, and bring those ideas to the fore? So these questions are here on the chat, and we're going to open the floor. You are welcome to raise your hand through the Zoom option or put your questions in the chat, and we will both take note of your feedback and comments, and we'll also take the time to address any questions or thoughts that come up. Does that sound good, Safira and Devin? Wonderful. So again, welcome to raise your hands or put in questions or thoughts and comments and suggestions in the chat. I can't seem to see hands raised. Safira, can you see any? I don't know if there's a glitch on my end.
I think Ani she can't raise her hand, but
Okay.
she wants to speak. And then I see Adro has a hand raised.
Go ahead, Ani. Thank you, Safira.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, first of all, this is super inspiring, and thank you so much for organizing it. And hello from Brooklyn. I am really excited to hear more about some of the opportunities that you mentioned, professional development opportunities. And I think you spoke briefly about a mentorship program. Also, I think Ivy mentioned about an advocacy training for youth leaders, as well as a facilitation training opportunity to become facilitators of discussion. So I would love to see all those opportunities open to us, great professional development opportunities. And if you can speak more about those, and if there are any others that we can engage in and then contribute back, I would love to hear. Thank you.
Vera, do you want to speak a little bit about the mentorship session?
Sure, I'm happy to speak to it. We can also maybe take a group of questions and then we can open up answers. So I can speak a little bit more to the mentorship program, but let's hear from a few others.
Okay, who do we have next?
You're talking now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Adro Sabir from Uganda. In the first place, I want to thank everyone and the organizers of the forum I think based on our experience of working with young girls, especially in the rural areas where there's no access to information and where there's no media, access to media where they can easily access them. We are hoping, and we are already coming up with a number of ideas. One of it is we are creating locally based, community-based organizations who can go deep to those rural areas, who can engage those girls, because we have seen recently the issues like teenage pregnancies, child marriages, and also forced marriages are taking toll in Africa especially. And now to tackle all those issues, we have now come up with the forming community-based organizations, such that at least we work with locally based organizations who can identify problems right from the villages to the parish levels, and also we look to connect with the local leaders, especially the lower LC ones who are always on the ground to look after these people. Because now these girls alone, they don't have access to information, they don't have access to legal representatives. So we realize that most times nobody talks for them, they don't have a voice in the community, and most times when they get pregnant, they are isolated, nobody bothers to follow them, they don't get an antenatal. Sometimes others end up even giving birth on the street. So we are looking at how best we can help these ones, especially where there's no internet, they cannot access Wi-Fi, they cannot, even they don't have phones. So to follow up those people, we need to work with the community-based organizations who are locally based, such that we can easily identify and make follow-ups for such people, the disadvantaged ladies, the young ones. We can help them better, because now I'm looking at a situation whereby if we're all based in the centers, urban centers, and the biggest issue we are having is in the rural areas, and how do we reach there? So my only humble appeal to everyone here is trying to reach to those local based organizations who can have access to those girls, and most of them are dropping out from school even before reaching P7, and that is the basic education. Attaining primary 7, they cannot reach, they're getting pregnant, they're getting married, being forced by their relatives. As somebody said, we cannot help somebody who does not who has not come for help. The issue is these ladies are brought up in a way that they are only prepared for marriage. So they don't see value in education, they don't see value in their careers. All what they know is we are being raised for marriage. So they're always being prepared for marriage. I think this is one issue we need to also include the men, because if you're going to say that we are only dealing with the ladies, then the biggest insecurity to these girls are the boys that we are leaving behind. And tomorrow, the same men and the boys will not protect these ladies, but instead they become the insecurity to these girls. So I'm looking at the situation whereby as we are pushing on these girls, let us look at ways of how we can let these boys, the men, understand that these are part of us, these are part of the communities, how we need to treat them, how we need to prepare them for their future is entirely dependent on the man himself. Because at the end of the day, a girl is defiled by the man. A girl is taken for marriage to a man who is very old already. A 16-year-old, 13-year-old is already getting pregnant and marrying somebody who is 40 years. These are issues we are looking at now, and how best do we offer legal assistance to these people, especially those ones who are forced, who are raped, and who are defiled. I think this is where I can stop for now, but these are issues that we need to look at critically. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your insightful comments. Really appreciate that. And we can turn it over to, I believe, Danielle next, who had a question or a comment, and you would like to hear from as many people as possible. So please feel free to either put your questions in the chat or to raise your hands.
Hello, my name is Danielle Powell. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I have an organization called the World is a Girls Runway, and we empower young girls to become entrepreneurs from all over the world. We have mentored girls in the Philippines, Kenya, and different places. So we would like to know, how can we help in any way to bring awareness, and just like the young man was talking about the young girls in his country, that they don't have access to become women. The men, they just want them to work and to be married. So we would love to help in any way.
Thank you for that, Danielle. And we'll take a quick question from Carlo. Carlo, I think you had your hand raised.
Yes. I would just wanted to answer the question that you sent in the chat about what can you do to support our work in the coming year. And actually, it will be amazing. I have been taking a lot of notes from these events that you actually made. Even in one that you made a high level discussion, I repeated myself in my organization. I had a high level discussion about gender equality and feminism with a great group of women from my country. So actually, it would be amazing if you can keep doing this kind of events, this kind of job, but where we can, join and participate with people from all around the world, for professionals with experience, with organizations, with international organizations that actually can teach us, and we can learn from them about what's going on in the world and what they are doing with their actual job right now. And it would be amazing if we can see that for we can actually do that also with the GLGP space for 2021, and that will be a huge contribution for you, and also to be like more active, like we can be like the participants be more active. One of the amazing things from these high level discussions is that we actually see a conversation between important people, but we also have a conversation with them like we are doing right now, and that will be really, really, really amazing. And actually, in the last question, is really important. How can we reach young people, especially girls who do not have access to platforms, and bring those ideas to the fore? There is something important in Venezuela, and that is that we have a humanitarian crisis since 2014. And a lot of girls, a lot of young girls, and a lot of young boys, men are being raptured in orphans, and that's an issue that has to be, like the humanitarian crisis that we have in Venezuela. And I know that the humanitarian crisis is not just Venezuela, but in other countries. It would be amazing if we could, like speak more about that and know how can we help those young people that are losing their life or their freedom in the frontiers of, for example, my country, because of this humanitarian crisis. They're like flying away from the crisis we have here, political, socially, and economic crisis. So they are flying away from other countries like Colombia and Brazil, and they go through the frontier, and it's super dangerous because they do it in an illegal way, because they don't go straight to the legal frontier where Colombian officers or Brazilian officers are to help the people, but they're doing it in other different way, because they don't have passports or IDs, because it's really hard to get them here in Venezuela. So they in their like in their will of having a better life in future prosperation, they go to those countries without thinking too much, and these kind of things happen, as human trafficking, girls being raped, boys being sequestrated and being used for these terrorist groups that are domaining in the frontier. So that would be one thing that we could actually, one discussion or one area that we could touch with other people, so we can learn more about international organizations that can help the local organizations, for example, in Venezuela, that are actually working to trying to save those people. So that will be something amazing, like try to contact, help us to contact those international organizations to work together in new projects and in new new ideas to develop and reach our mutual goals, not just in the humanitarian crisis, but also in the ideology crisis, like the gender, race, equality, and feminist areas that, for example, in Venezuela are like a taboo. They're actually a taboo right now. And even when we had the high-level discussion in Venezuela, there was like a huge discussion and debate about it because people were like, having different point of view, and that's great. Having a different point of view is great, but the problem is that people sometimes see different points of view as a direct or personal attack. So it would be amazing if we could actually also like trying to educate people and the society to learn more about these terms, about these areas, and work together to, as I said before, develop and reach our mutual goals.
Thank you for that, Carlo. And I feel like with some of these questions, we're really seeing a theme of accessibility and how to form connections amongst our groups of advocates. And we had another question in the chat asking about how we can make CSW more accessible to those who have never attended the platform before. And that's really important for us to know and understand as well. On our end, we will be having advocacy sessions and trainings that would help equip advocates with the information and the tools they need to be able to virtually attend the CSW forum and to engage with all the other advocates who will be participating globally. But there are any other suggestions on your end or thoughts and comments of how we can continue improving that process, again, please feel free to reach out to us, make those suggestions and comments in the chat. You can let us know right now. We're all noting this down and really collecting this information to help inform our processes in a better way down the line. And in terms of making this platform and our connections with one another as advocates stronger and more accessible, I think one of the ways we can do it through this particular platform is to continue coming together and joining these meetings. In the past, with the YLYP events, we've had sessions where we've done breakout groups according to different regions, which has allowed opportunities for NGOs and advocates and activists located in the same region to connect together, to come together. And what this allows for is, again, those networks and connections that come together and then allow for new opportunities and relationships to be formed and flourish. For example, if there are certain organizations that are based in South Asia, if they are able to connect to one another through the NGO CSW platform or through another YLYP meeting or event, they can perhaps share their resources and figure out a way how to make the CSW forum accessible to women who are based in rural communities, or who boys and men who are based in rural communities, or who may not even know anything about this forum or about this space. So I think coming together and trying to intentionally forge those connections is one way we can try and make this event or the space more accessible to those who currently do not have access to it. And there was some question about the networking and mentorship spaces as well. Safira or Devin, do you want to take a go at any of these?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the mentorship program. And if there are thoughts, it would be great to get your feedback. So YLYP has held now 2 mentorship spaces. And what we're trying to do is create a unique space that is different from the thousands of Zoom calls that we are all on right now, where you can't really interact. It's much more difficult to have an intimate conversation with someone. So our first 2 mentorship spaces have been capped at 20 people. They've been small and intimate. We had one this morning, which was on the intersection between racial justice and gender justice, with 2 excellent speakers who are just so willing to give advice and share their stories and their email addresses. And I recognize some of you on the call now who are in that space this morning. And we had one previously with our chair of NGO CSW, Huri, and our vice chair, Ivy. And the idea is really to develop a relationship, to kind of have a space where you can raise the questions that are sitting on your heart. I mean, all of us on this call are doing some amazing work at the grassroots. And I think sometimes it's really nice to be able to have a meaningful conversation, and a conversation that inspires us and helps us to kind of navigate some of the questions that are arising for us in our work. So we've held 2 spaces now. We're hoping to strengthen these mentorship spaces, but we're also trying to understand what would be most helpful to you. If there are, specific formats or specific needs or specific questions, it could be that we set up thematic conversations where people who have particular interests or questions about technology, for example, or about racial justice, or about the Beijing Platform for Action, or whatever it is, that you can then have kind of a smaller, more intimate discussion where you can really grapple with some of these ideas. So we're trying a different format. So it would be really great to get some feedback, particularly to those who were on the call this morning, if you have any reflections, because we recognize that there are just so many moving pieces in terms of young people's participation with all of the things that were shared on the call today. And while many young people are very, very effective on the ground, we're wanting to be able to build capacity to share what you're learning on the ground at these international levels and in these kind of higher level spaces. So to have a mentor, or to have people to kind of guide you in that process to be much more effective, is really what we're trying to create here, and to create a platform for that. So please give us feedback on that. The other thing that I wanted to speak to was this point that Danielle raised about how can we help bring awareness? How can we kind of partner with NGO CSW? That is another question that we do have, and I know that the UN has, and many of the agencies that are trying to work with young people. It's this constant question of reach, of how to identify and access young people and bring their ideas into these spaces. So if you do have platforms, or if you do have certain connections and networks, we would love to partner with you. We would love to see how we can kind of share your work and give you some sort of a platform to share ideas and the things that you're learning, and also to share what is happening at the international level and opportunities with youth on the ground to participate, so that their voices can be heard in these spaces. So yes, we'd love to hear any thoughts or reactions to those two points.
Yes, Sahar, go ahead.
Okay, because I just wanted a little bit of clarity, and you might have covered this in part, and I'm hearing a lot of abstract around it, but I definitely wanted to hear a little bit more in terms of definitive spaces for like, in terms, just like in response to the last person who spoke, it's like, this is what I need. And, and then even earlier on when the questions were going, somebody said, this is a need. And then someone said, well, that's the way that I would like to fill it. So like, just in terms of like concrete resources. So just like to throw one out, like having a place where needs, like specific needs that organizations are trying to reach, and other organizations that are meeting similar needs. Or like you're mentioning the mentorship program a lot, but maybe there are quite a bit of people here who are already professionals who don't need mentorship and want more like collaborative networking spaces that are a little bit more emergent. So like I said, you might have already spoken to what exactly in your platform is this. And again, like when you talk about training and stuff like that, it's different when you're coming from, and that's so needed, this awareness building component around training and leveling up with skills. But then it's a whole nother thing when people are already all at the same level, and they just need to be able to have like a space to network properly, so that we are unifying more with our activist work. So I just wanted to, if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
Saida, would you like me to jump in now, or do you want to hear from a few others? Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Sahar. It's really helpful just to kind of hear this kind of feedback, because we are wanting to be much more responsive. And a lot of the requests that we've had have been around training, advocacy, capacity development. But this is really good to hear that this is also another kind of need for those who are already ramped up and ready to go and just need to connect in. So that's something that we can definitely look at and to think about a space. I also wonder whether, and maybe this is a conversation also for NGO CSW and those of you who are on the call, to have a space to share. We've been wanting to use Slack, but we recognize that not everybody is on that platform. So to try to think of spaces where concrete needs, concrete ideas, questions, like if you want to network, who is it that you're wanting to network with? Is it UN agencies? Is it other civil society organizations? Is it UN Women specifically? So to kind of bring a level of granularity to that so that we can be responsive and try to create those spaces. But this is really helpful for us in terms of trying to figure out next steps and being as effective with our resources and energy and time as possible. So thank you.
And speaking to that, we have a suggestion in the chat from Marissa, who talks about potentially having workshop style sessions based around specific topics that would address those needs and move beyond sort of the training element to a more building connection between organizations and advocates and activists who can build off each other's resources and knowledge sharing. So thank you for those suggestions. That is very helpful for us. Are there any other people who have their hands raised? There's a glitch on my Zoom. I can't seem to see that. So Safira or Devin, do you see anybody with hands raised that you could call on next?
We have Carlos and we have Audro. I think Carlos had his hand raised first.
Go ahead, Carlos, if you have your hand raised.
Am I being too annoying right now? I've been talking a lot right now. But thank you so much. I just wanted to say that the mentorship was amazing. We talked with Pamela and Rosa, and Pamela said something really amazing about the challenges, and we actually have been talking a lot about that. From what I was talking about the high-level discussion, we have also a discussion about race right there, like Black woman, African American, and Indigenous people. And it's amazing to hear about an activist like Pamela, because she makes it so clear that even though we talk about equality, even though we talk about gender equality and being equal to each other, there are a lot of things that in this modern world, in this modern era, are not being done. Like, where's the job? What are we doing as an activist? There we have the Black Lives Matter movement that has been doing an amazing movement all around the world. It has become global right now. But unfortunately for Black women or Indigenous women, it's really hard. And even for Black men and Indigenous men, it's really hard to have opportunities like most people do. And I can talk as a Latino and as a brown person that it's actually really hard when you have like these two, because I find myself represented in Pamela and in Rosa, Black person and a Latin person. So I know what they meant when they said it's hard to be in the next level. It's hard to move forward. It's hard to keep going sometimes, but you have to, and what I like is that you have to be cool and you have to just do it, just go forward. It would be hard, it won't be easy for us, but we have to do it. We have to move forward, we have to do the work, because that's our job. We have to do the activism. But I think we have to work harder and harder to make that equality happen, in this time, because there's a lot of young people out there with so much to give, but they don't have the same opportunities as we do. For example, there are a lot of more Black young people and Indigenous young people that are being forced to work because they are not economically sustainable in their house. So they are losing the opportunity to study because they have to work to keep money to the house to maintain their family, children, or brothers and sisters. And that happens a lot. Even in the Indigenous community, if they want to keep the culture, they have like, in some way, this society has like reject them and like take them away. Like you are in point B and I'm in point A, we cannot collate. And that's just wrong. When we talk about quality, we must work together to make sure that Black people, indigenous people, brown people have the same opportunities and the same doors open as some people do. Because as I say, I think I said it in the mentorship, it's not the same. Like if I could be in United States, in London or in Paris, I will have extremely different opportunities than I have right now being in Venezuela. And it won't be the same. It also, it's not the same because if I had more money, like to invest in this kind of work, I will also have more opportunities than I have right now. So that's not fair. That's not fair because we are leaving a lot of young professionals and young leaders that have so much to give, but they are being like pushed back because they are know what they want. They don't look like they should look. They don't have the money they should have. They're not living the country they should have. So it's like it's not fair for me. It's not fair, and that's something that we have to keep on working, keep on talking, because we think more we talk about it, more we do about it.
Thank you, Carlo, for that. Appreciate it. And I think next we had Adro, who might have his hand raised to speak. Adro, I think you might be on mute.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you so much once again. What I wanted to share briefly right now is about the awareness. And looking at Africa as a whole, we're looking at the setup from the cultural setups to the religious settings. So one, because now we're running a program, Hello Teens, that is aimed at creating awareness among the teenagers on teenage pregnancy, child marriages, and forced marriages. So what we are doing is we meet the cultural leaders, talk about the dangers of teenage pregnancy and forced marriages, early child marriages. We meet the religious leaders from the Christian community and the Muslim communities to discuss deeply on how best we can protect these girls, and also why we should continue to educate them to achieve their goals to become better person in the future. We realize that these young girls, they like games and sports so much. So to create awareness, to mobilize them easily, what we are doing is we organize games and sports. We organize dramas, music, dance, and dramas, so that we create awareness. Then what we also do is we invite those ones who have made tremendous contributions, the celebrities, those ones who are successful in life, especially the ladies, the young ones who have excelled in sports and different fields, such that when we bring these people, the young ones look at them as an inspiration. Then from there, they also begin to develop a feeling that I want to become like so and so. So this is how we are trying to move in the whole issue of sensitization and the awareness among the young girls. Another issue now is we have realized that these young girls are taken up by handouts given to them by the sugar daddies, their boyfriends. So we realize that it is very much important to empower these girls with the skills, vocational skills, modern farming, that is agriculture, such that during the fall holidays off from education, from schools, they are engaged in income generating activities such that their mind is taken off from the boyfriend and the sugar daddies to doing something that is constructive to them, that they can learn something out of it. So how do we do that? We form them into groups. We train these ones on vocational trainings like tailoring. We form others and take them for modern agriculture. by the time they are finishing their training, then they come to us and tell us, we need to learn more. So as we are training them, we keep on emphasizing on the dangers of early marriages, teenage pregnancy, especially involvement on sexual intercourse and the sexual intercourse which are not safe to them at their age. Because now the issue is the peer group that they are taken into. So as we are trying to cut off that peer group that is trying to divert their minds from being a career-driven girls, so we are creating those trainings. Those ones who can excel in sports, we take them into athletics, netball, even girls football. That's what we are trying to introduce, such that during their off times, they engage into sports, vocational trainings, and also crafts, how to make crafts, like the open shoes, the bags, and very many other things. So that is how we can keep them busy and we can keep them off the thinking of early marriages, because now these girls, sometimes they now have no choice but to run, because now some of them think education is hard because their parents are harassing. You have to wake up in the early morning, you go and about 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, around maybe 10 to, 5 jerrycans, that is 20 liters. You come back to school, you're late, reaching class, the teacher is punishing you for coming late. And these are girls who come from very far distance. Somebody walks to school like about 3 kilometers, going to school, coming back for lunch, also going back. So some prefer staying at school than going for lunch because now the distance, they cannot cover it. So we are looking at pushing the awareness campaigns to schools. That is the age starting from 11 years, 17 years, that is primary, and also secondary. Those girls within that age bracket. Yeah. Such that when you focus and they are
thank you, Adriel.
You want to meet them, it's very easy through their team leaders, phones, they are not easily accessible. So we are looking at all the avenues of reaching to these girls, more especially the rural settings where nobody is reaching to them. And to create this awareness, it needs, the government and the other development partners. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate your input. And we're also getting some really great feedback on the chat and interest in the idea of having a thematic workshop. So that's something that we're really going to go and explore together. And hopefully you'll see some of our future sessions coming up in 2021 built around a thematic workshopping session. So thank you for that incredible feedback and for input. Are there any other folks on the call who have their hands raised? Because we'd like to hear from as many people as possible.
We have Bia and Akkad who have their hands raised.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think you might be on mute.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. This is very interesting engagement in terms of the implementation of the SDGs, and what I'm interested particularly is the mentorship program. Our organization, Africa for Africa Women Empowerment, we really focusing on mentorship of young girls. And in particular, the most challenging issue is empowerment of women economically, because with the escalation of the gender-based violence, this is the focus that we think that we can be able to help women help themselves. And in this regard, we've actually identified the sector where most of the African countries are participating, which is your art, craft, textile, fashion, and beauty. And this is something that really would really like and see how we can actually work with you and consolidate within the continent, and also positioning the African fashion internationally. So, but looking specifically at empowering of young women that are vulnerable and women in general in terms of fighting GBV, because we believe that if women are empowered economically, they will be able to stand firm for their families as mothers, but young women themselves, they will not depend on partners that actually abuse them. So this is what I wanted to reflect in the broader context of the mentorship, which we think that is very important. And also I do support the point of the thematic engagements, that we can be able to come up with something that's concrete, that is implementable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bia, and thank you so much for bringing up the point of the importance of intersectionality across economic justice and how that's related to violence and other avenues that affect the lives of girls and women around the world. Thank you. Who did we have next on the call? Please feel free to unmute.
Akkad is next.
Okay.
Akkad, did you want to unmute yourself? I don't think they're there.
That's okay. If there is anybody else on the chat who on the call who would like to get in some final inputs or thoughts or questions and suggestions, please feel free to raise your hand, or again, put your thoughts and questions in the chat. We're taking note of them. Again, Safira and Devin, please feel free to flag if anybody has their hands raised and I can't see them. But we are nearing the end of our session, and it's been a really comprehensive and engaging 2 hours now. So we thank you all for your participation. And we invite you to continue giving us your feedback. I'm going to put the questions that we had posed earlier in the chat again in the chat right now. And you can send in your suggestions and comments either to info@ngocsw.org or to a post-event survey that we will be sending out. Again, we want you to be thought leaders and our partners in this space as we continue to develop it. So we welcome all suggestions and feedback. And please do join our mailing list so that you can stay informed about future events that will be taking place. We have a lot of them coming up, both within the sphere of the YLYPs and NGO CSW broadly. It will give you all an opportunity to connect with one another, and again, to stay updated about what is happening in the gender equity space globally. So please feel free to join our mailing list, and we hope to see you in future sessions and also in future mentorship programs and events that we will be hosting down the line. Safira and Devin, do you have anything else to add?
No, just thank you. It was so wonderful to see you all and hear your thoughts today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, a great event. Thank you all so much for all of your input and questions and comments and everything. It was really a really meaningful conversation.
Yeah, and as Devin mentioned in the chat, you'll get a follow-up email with all the relevant links and the recording of this call. So thank you again, everybody, and we hope to see you join us for our next event. Have a wonderful day and weekend.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Great job, everyone. Thank you.